Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Cube. Episode 1, we talked a lot about the cube in episode 1. I mean, I feel like that's just an inevitable result of Ultracube. It's you spend a lot of time thinking about this one cube, and yes, you do have to build other bits of factory, and those things occupy your mind, but, the cube is the cube, and the cube is the cube. So anyway, we're going to do more cube, predictably. We're going to start off with some more cubelet business. I've got this basic matter unit over here. We need to do some science units. We need to do some other bits and pieces as well. I am aware that we need to do things. I'm unaware of what the specificality is of what those things is that I need to do. We're just going to do it and figure it out as we go. So yeah, let's get cracking. Alright then, we are back at science. Now this isn't usual for me. Ordinarily when I'm building these factories and filming it with these time lapses, I go to a square in my place in my factory and I build it, and then I move to another square, and we don't really generally tend to come back. This is a new thing. I think I've been through the reasons as to why we are where we are with this. This whole time lapse is going to be, I think it might be like completely unique amongst my time lapses in that it has no plan. It's just going wherever I need to go from a moment to moment basis, and it's actually starting to cause problems. So I need a lot of these loaders, like these stuff that I need for this cube stuff. We've got input and output, such a large quantity of material. The only real way to do it is with the loaders, but I haven't built somewhere in my mall to make loaders yet. I haven't had it researched when I was last in the mall. And the bit with the conveyor belts, this doesn't really have any space to accommodate it. Not to mention that there's purple ones. We've got another speed of conveyor belt. I'm going to need these high speed conveyor belts without a shadow of a doubt, a lot of them. So, this part of the factory needs updating. I need to make loaders, but I'm reluctant to build anything in the mall until I've brought the camera back. So, and also, I don't want to just move the camera to a place, build 3 or 4 assembly machines, and then move to another area. I want to move the camera to a place and then have, you know, 15, 20, 30 seconds worth of stuff to do. There's no point me moving the camera here until I've got like lots until I need lots of things. So I'm stuck in a place where I'm having to handcraft loaders because I can't build the thing, because I can't plan the time. That's we are back at science. We now have cliff explosives, so I can remove this giant chasm that runs through the middle of this factory and build something a little bit more permanent. But, you know, how many times are we going to have to come back here? I got no idea. I'm going to build a thing here. I mean, I don't even know how many sciences we're going to need in the fullness of... Can we actually even investigate? Can I investigate that? Ah, so that would suggest there's one more. See, I'm just building towards these two. And then we've got this one afterwards, but... There is a whole lot of stuff. Anyway, so, okay, maybe the science is nearly finished. I don't know. That last one's going to be difficult. I know it is. That one's going to be where all the hardest, most difficult things are going to be hidden. Anyway, this is going to get knocked down. We're going to remove the giant cliff. We're going to build something a little bit better. You know, ultimately, since I built that science, we've upgraded a lot of throughput. We've got a lot more stuff flying through the factory than we had before. That's a big consequence. Well, it's a couple of things, to be honest. You know, this cube factory is now a whole lot more efficient with the cube's time. We're making a lot more things in a shorter stretch of time. You know, we were wasting a lot of time with the cube being on a belt before. So with it being like this, you know, each individual kind of self-contained loop in itself, this is much more efficient with the time. It's also as a result of the cubelet business. You know, we had set up the basic matter unit and the crystals. And the, what's that called? The spectrolite. Yeah, we've got that stuff over there. We also just constructed this stuff over here, which is the first kind of science card and the n-dimensional widget automation core thing. I've got the ectoplasm set up, but I need this particular type of emotion, bottled anguish. The naming convention, there's a lot of, I gotta be honest, there's a lot of jokes. There's a lot of like in jokes in this game. Like in the science tree, the last thing we get that I can see that, you know, I need to unlock at some point is this thing, the forbidden ziggurat. I don't even know how to pronounce this. This is a word alien to me. We might want to avoid this one. Like, what does that mean? I mean, clearly we don't have a choice. Like, we have to do this thing. Like, it's just ominous. It's just very, very ominous. And then logistic robots, born in pairs, forever twinned, rest assured, they'll both do their best. And we've got we produced two logistic robots here. Like, we've got this top one, transport items between logistic chests, and then this bottom one transports items between logistic chests, brackets, best effort. And one of the key materials that we need to make all of this factory work is potatoes. Like, amongst all of this, like, really super serious circuitry and the cube, we've got rare metals and stone blocks and conveyor belts and inserters, and amongst all that real serious stuff, we've got potatoes and mashed potatoes. And it's a pretty critical ingredient. It gives us ethanol, which gives us ectoplasm, which gives us, I don't know what yet, to be honest. It's just, this whole game is littered with jokes. It's like... And these two, I've just unlocked two new things, like these two new liquids. One of them is called despair, one of them is called joy, and then we take the despair and the joy, and we turn one of them into bottled anguish, and one of them into bottled euphoria. And it's not even the euphoria that we want. The euphoria is the stuff that we have too much of. The factory actually needs the anguish. Like, we just have to, we kind of need to throw the euphoria in the bin, more or less. I mean, we can kind of make use of it with some stuff, but not a lot. It's the anguish we actually need. The more that I look through this set of mods, it makes me chuckle. You know what? It's probably done with the intention of, like, you know, you're going through despair, anguish, rah, 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 rah. But, you know, it brings a lightness to the thing. You know, it does make you smile. Anyway, let's move on with some factory stuff. So we're about to kind of update the mall. And I am kind of worrying. The one thing I am worrying about is this gap here. This is the amount of space that I still have left in this bus to be able to move stuff through from this cube or to this cube to the rest of the factory. I have got a few extra tiles on the other side. Like, there's a bit more of a gap over here, so, you know, I'm not lost for space, but I am thinking of areas where I can, you know, claw back some space if I need it. And I'm looking primarily at these 4 conveyor belts for rare metals and these 4 conveyor belts for this base matter unit. But I imagine we'll be looking at this as well at some point. The problem that I think I'm come to, and what, you know, why I've got 4 of these conveyor belts, is because it's more or less the standard kind of problem we have in Factorio, which is that at the start of a factory we build a mall, and that has to make a whole load of stuff to fill up the boxes in the mall. And that absorbs a lot of the base matter that we use in that game. And in Vanilla Factorio, that is iron plate and probably green circuit board. So at the start of the game, it feels like we need a lot of those things. Like, the factory just absorbs whatever we throw at it. And then over time, as those boxes in the mall fill up, we need less and less and less iron plate and green circuit boards, and we start needing the kind of the higher tiers. Like, we start needing steel, we start needing red and blue circuit boards. And I kind of think that's what the trap that I've ended up here. Like, at the start of the factory, it felt like I needed a bazillion amount of this base matter unit and a bazillion amount of this rare I mean, we still need the rare metals. That's still going. That's a little more painful. But, you know, it's more or less stopped now because the mall is kind of filled up. There is what I just mentioned, which is, you know, the mall isn't finished. I'm going to have to go back and build more stuff. But I am going to get faster conveyor belts. So I think if I start finding myself limited on the whole space front, then this is the opportunity. This is the place where it's going to get lost. Where it's going to, you know, where I'm going to gain a bit more space. We're not talking about a lot of space, but, you know, I think we're going to come to a point where 3 or 4 conveyor belts is going to be the difference. That just might be all it takes. That might be all it needs. So that's kind of where I'm thinking now. We've also got nuclear power. Nuclear power. So we need, like, for nuclear power, in order to get the nuclear power plant going, we have to put the cube in it. And then the moment the cube finishes, it takes some uranium fuel and gets going. And whenever the nuclear power plant runs out of uranium fuel, it needs the cube to get started again. So we can't regulate how much fuel we use now. You know, once these nuclear power plants are on, they're now on forever. Fun. But, you know, power, that was something that I was seriously lacking. We've got more than enough power. I've built another one, of course I did, you know, symmetry. We don't need that yet. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. I mean, to be honest, I've kind of given myself the potential to build this same setup over on this side if I really kind of get stretched for power. I could have 2 of these. I could have, well, 4 of these, I suppose. All said and done, if I need power. And I mean, uranium, to be honest, that's another thing that we're going to get access to later things. Like, we've got Covrex in here, but I don't have the science for it. We've got this other thing. Where is the thing? Radioactive sludge. What the hell is radioactive sludge? Where does it go? At this moment in time, there is nowhere for it to go. So I don't... we've got to unlock the science to figure out. There's just no 2 ways about it. So this is temporary, but it's not temporary. The power stations are pretty permanent, but the uranium processing and what we do with it, we're going to find that out in the fullness of time. What we need to be doing is science. We need to unlock those last 2 science cards, get those put into a lab, get this science unlocked, find out what this forbidden ziggurat is, what it does. Let's keep going. Okie dokie. I've found myself in the place where I don't like to be, which is waiting. There are several logistical things that I'm waiting, several like chains of logic. Like I need one thing to happen in order to make another thing happen, in order to make another thing happen, in order to make the something happen which I need to happen. And those kind of few things that are kind of standing in the way of me reaching the point where I need to get to are just taking forever. I just can't get to the bottom. just let me just run through it all. Alright, so I mean the problem really starts with this deep core mining thing, which is the last bit of factory I built, this bit here, before I zoomed out. I intended to zoom out and immediately get cracking on the railways, which is what that last thing is that I'm aiming for. I've unlocked the elevated rails. I will come to this in a moment. Deep core mining thing. We've got this purple core. We get this purple core from a very specific place. What are they called? I don't know what these mining patches, deep core, or it's just a single place where we can put a single machine and it outputs a single thing. But in order to mine this ore, we need the cube. That's what it's doing at the moment. We've got the cube in here running around making the thing. And whilst the cube is here, obviously, it's not in the rest of the factory doing anything else. It's just here, generating this deep ore. So anyway, so whenever I'm now in 2 stages of the factory now. Either the cube is in the cube factory doing cube things, or the cube is here mining me this one specific ore. I mean, long-term wise, I think there's a teleporter in the game, and I'm imagining that it's here to solve this kind of a problem, because I'm not putting the cube on a train to come out here. I'm not doing that. It's got to be able to magic its way here somehow. The teleporter, I can see it. I obviously can't play with it yet. It's not unlocked, but I'm hoping that will fix the job. Anyway, there's not kind of what I'm. I've got to bring the cube over here. That stops the rest of the cube factory working. That's really the key thing. Now, when we crush this deep ore, we get coal. Now, this isn't real coal. This isn't the coal like the coal that we know and love. Like, there's no patches of it on the ground. I mean, to be honest, there's very few patches of anything. We've got 3 things. We've got the rare earth metals, we've got uranium and stone, and then we've got, I suppose, 4 with this deep core mining drill stuff. Coal doesn't exist. We can't mine it, but we get it as a byproduct of crushing this deep core ore, and it really hasn't got anywhere to go. We can't burn it. We can't put it in a furnace to smelt some ore. I mean, there's not really any ore to smelt, but there's no furnace to put anything in. We can't burn it. We can put it in a train. I mean, that is technically burning it, and I suppose, I could set up an enormous set of train track loops which burns a whole load of coal to kind of relieve me of this problem. But that seems I'm not doing that. That seems stupid. So what we're kind of left with is we've got one place for this coal to go, and that's deep down here in this coal process. We have two options for making this gelatinous tar: wood, sand, and steam, or wood, sand, coal, and steam. So we can throw the coal into here when we've got too much of it, and then when we don't have enough coal, we can get the same gelatinous tar from some other process, which is from wood and sand, which we can make unlimited amounts, more or less. The coal only comes from this one process. It's this byproduct from this one place, so we have a whole lot less control with how we do it. So yeah, 2 processes, one with priority. That kind of fixes the coal issue, but it seems to be throwing out a lot more coal than I can process. The thing that I'm struggling with is balance. Like, am I making too much coal? Am I not making enough coal? Is the problem here that the cube, because this needs the cube to clear. So whilst the cube is over in the mining drill doing the mining stuff, it's not clearing this coal. This only clears when the cube comes back. So this just kind of, it feels like this builds up and builds up and builds up, and I seem to have way too much of it. Now I can throw this somewhere else. Like I'm researching coal liquefaction up here. This gives us, we can put coal, steam, and refined tar, and we get this refined tar and essential oils back at us again. Now these refined tar and essential oils, these are what we get from processing the gelatinous tar in the first place. Let's find that place on the map. We take the gelatinous tar, we turn it into the refined tar and the essential oils. And much like in vanilla kind of Factorio, we have to balance these 2 things. It's a little bit more complicated because it's just a little bit more complicated because it's cube. But it is more or less the same process. We've got the main oil input, and then we've got 2 different types of oil output, light and heavy, say, for example. And then we've got 2 different processes which balance that. And this works fine. This works fine without the coal liquefaction. Now, this is a real deep rabbit hole. In vanilla Factorio, I balance all of this stuff mathematically by comparing it all to what we get at the end, which is the petroleum. And petroleum, we get it just from the light oil. It's 1 input, 1 output. Therefore, my maths only works. It's a simple setup, but it only works when it's 1 input, 1 output. The way that it calculates, and that's not how it works in here. In here, the kind of the analogy for petroleum, which is the unstable gas, it takes both of these things. So the balance of these 2 things is really critical. Getting the right numbers in these tanks, and I don't know whether this is going to completely ruin that balance. And not just that, but I can't calculate whether. What I'm essentially asking is this I'm looking for a more wasteful way to use coal. If I've got too much coal, I need to waste it. So does this waste coal, or does the cube process waste the coal? How do I mathematically work that out? Can I? I might just have to look at the numbers and just have a pot guess. Maybe I should have looked at the numbers before I turned on the mic here. It's not clear. It's not clear to me what this coal liquefaction business is going to, whether it's going to solve it or make the problem worse. This might be a more efficient use of coal, in which case I don't want to use this. I want to waste the coal. But the coal keeps backing up, and I once that backs up, it stops processing this deep core stuff. I'm just really struggling with balance. Just totally struggling with how to balance things. I mean, am I making more coal than I need, or am I not making more coal? I mean, this isn't the first and only place in this freaking mod. This is actually happening in a few places. I mean, I've just been playing around with the nuclear setup. And... oh, let me run down there. Hold on a sec. Right, so yeah, I've just been working on this setup to try and get Ikoliks going because I've unlocked it. And I had some fuel. I couldn't process my used spent fuel. And I couldn't create any more of this special U235. U235? Yeah. Without the Ikoliks. I needed the Ikoliks. This new setup has solved that problem. But the issue isn't that. It's that, we have three different things. We get U234 as well as 235 and 238 now. And U234, when we run it through Ikoliks, we make a profit on both of them. We make a profit on the U235 and we make a profit on the U234. So we put the U238 in and we get extra of the other two back at us. But the fuel, there's two different kinds of fuel. There's two different ways of making the fuel. I'm kind of running around in circles here. The problem is that we've got these three outputs, and which one is the important one? Which one do we need to use at any one moment in time? The fuel recipe that we're using at the moment just uses two of them. There is another one, and it uses three. Well, it doesn't. Okay, no. It doesn't use three of them. It uses the radioactive sludge. But the radioactive sludge is something that we get as a result of this process, which is taking the U234 and spending it. We're putting in more U234 than we're getting back at us. This is the only process that does this with U234. So if we don't have this process in our factory, then we are going to be creating an infinite amount of this U234 over time. It's just going to make more and more and more in a box. The problem is that we are making it so slowly. Like, this has been running for hours, a dozen hours, probably more. And the amount of U234 in the system hasn't even filled up the Ikoliks yet. This is the belt here. It's filled up this top half. Hasn't filled up the bottom half. It hasn't worked its way back to here. In order for that process there to be useful, with the radioactive sludge, I think this is how it's working. In order for that process to be useful, I need to have an abundance of this U234, and I might only have an abundance for a short period of time. We might clear that abundance, and it's going to take a long time to have the abundance again. So I'm going to have to set up that factory for a potentially 2 or 3 cycles every 40 or 50 hours, just to clear the backlog of this one material. I think I haven't found anywhere else. The key ingredient here is that radioactive sludge. I haven't found anywhere else for it to go. If there is somewhere else for that radioactive sludge to go, then maybe what I've just said is just complete nonsense. Because if we need this radioactive sludge, then we can start using the U234. It's just impossible to predict. I can't see anything in this freaking tech tree we're just kind of waiting around, and I suppose what I'm doing with that time is kind of looking at the factory that I've got here, trying to understand it a bit better, trying to understand, there's a few excess products, a few things that we create in only one place, and we can only use them in a couple of other places, and they're kind of hidden, like, coal, for example. Let's say I wanted to try and find where I could put this coal. Like, I can't look in the Factoriopedia. I can't, anything in here, coal isn't even listed in here, because it's a byproduct of something. We can't create it by any means. We can't dig it out the ground. So coal isn't an item in this menu. The only way I can find how to use it is to find the recipes that use it. And that's this one here. Like, it's really, really unclear. Like, and I think purposely so. I think it's been purposely set up to be difficult, to be unclear, to be difficult to kind of interrogate. So anyway, yeah, I'm slowly interrogating the factory instead, I suppose. Instead of just building the factory as it presents to me, connecting all the conveyor belts as they should, and then I'm investigating the balance that I observe rather than any balance that I can calculate. And I mean, that's kind of the cube in essence. I mean, you can't really calculate the cube. The cube can only be in one place at one time. We can't have permanent production with it. We have to make compromises. We have to make choices along the way. It can be in this place, or it can be in this place, or it can be in this place, but it can't be in all of them at once. It's both infuriating and just captivating. So next thing, what we're doing now at the moment is waiting for the elevated rails to build, because the elevated rails need one of these other things, these other excess materials that we're having to deal with, which is mineral water. Another thing which we generate via processing some other thing. I'm in the complete wrong place of the factory. We make mineral water as a byproduct from one of these processes somewhere in here to do with this deep core business. We can use that to make more deep core business, but we also use it to make refined concrete, which goes into the elevated supports. And all of this is chock full of coal. So I'm not making any of that mineral water anymore because it's full of coal. This factory here is giving the factory like 4 or 5 really nice, important things that I need, and it all stops when there's too much coal. So all of this stuff is important and valuable. Like, it goes to science, it goes to the mall. I need all of it, all of the time, and it's constantly breaking. And so I'm waiting. So, waiting for rail supports and railways. I've got 4 of these, and I've got 49 of those. I need a lot more. So we're waiting and waiting and waiting until the moment is reached. It's going to be instantaneous for you. Let us commence the building of the railways. Waiting. I am spending so much of this mod's just waiting. I don't know whether it's me getting this completely wrong, or I don't know. I mean, I've had plenty of time to think as well, you know, all this waiting around. Like, ordinarily, in a normal kind of Factorio playthrough, at this kind of, with these sorts of time, you know, just sat around waiting, these are the sorts of times where I would go and do things like investigate the perimeter wall, you know, maybe upgrade it, maybe, you know, perfect it, maybe expand into more areas. But we don't have any biters, so I can't do that. I might also look in the tech tree and plan out what I'm going to be building in the future, you know. Look at some of the difficult recipes, difficult processes, try and figure them out in advance of them actually arriving. But I can't do that either. Just a lot of waiting. And I feel I'm probably kind of addressing problems that I wouldn't otherwise have addressed. You know, I now have a train that goes to my mine and picks up this special core. I just said I wasn't going to do that. But, you know, well, one thing, I got fed up of just running back and forth, bringing this ore. That's the first thing. And secondly, I just had some time. I was like, all right, well, why not? Let's do that. It works really well. I'm really glad I did it. I should have done it in the first place. Time. What else have I been doing with my time? Just fiddling, I guess. What I've actually did is make do an experiment. The video is done. At the point of pushing this Let's Play video out, the next video will be in a couple of days. That's when I'm going to release it. I wanted to release it after I released this Let's Play. I've done an experiment where I have filmed like half an hour of this factory of the cube, because I want to understand, am I using the cube efficiently? You know, how much time is the cube spending in a productive process where I'm getting some good results out at the end? And how much time is it spending, for instance, on the loop? You know, I've got this kind of loop system in the middle, and this distributes the cube around. Is this a bad method of transporting the cube around? Is there a different method I should be considering? So I've done an experiment. Let me just put up the results, because this is probably all that really matters. Here we go. So what I've determined, this is the end point of that experiment. I go through a whole lot of stuff in that extra video, but this is the end point. 3 numbers, core factory. So that is when a cube is in a process, running around a loop, creating something productively in a manner which I can't really influence. That's just the job of the cube, is to do a thing, and it spends a certain amount of time doing that thing. That is the productive time. I can't play around with that. That's the core factory. That's the stuff that the factory needs. 1400 seconds. On the loop, that's the blue thing in the middle. The entire time of this half an hour experiment, it spent 87 seconds on the loop. And then wasted time, 334 seconds. This is when a cube has been put into a factory, but the factory is still being loaded with material before the process can take place. So this is, I mean, this is a little bit more complicated, I suppose. Let's just go through this. In order, we want the cube only to go into a process when we know that process can be fulfilled. So in order to know that, we need to determine, do we have enough inputs? Have we got enough space in the outputs? And those are really kind of the 2 main things that we're trying to create circuits to look at. So we've got various sets of combinators, one for each process, to determine whether I want this process to run or not. But all of these circuit conditions have to be run off of boxes. You know, we can't connect a wire to any of these buildings, so we can't directly detect from the building whether we have enough material in here. So we almost have to detect it by proxy. So there are occasions where the factory unit is full of material, but the boxes aren't, you know, in which case it would be okay if we sent the cube in there, but we can't fully detect it. So it just bypasses it. I mean, the cube just bypasses the process in that respect. It doesn't cause any wasted time. The opposite effect is also true, which is where the chests have enough material in them such that they satisfy the circuit condition, but it hasn't been loaded into the building yet. So the system will tell the inserters to pick up the cube and put it in there, but until that material has been loaded from the box into the factory unit, the factory process won't run. And so that's kind of just wasted time. There are means and ways to improve that. I mean, just looking at these things, I've got 8 belts feeding in these rare metals into the main machine. That isn't even enough. This machine needs 6,000 every 4 seconds. I mean, it's not actually 4 seconds. This is how long the machine takes to run, but then the machine uses the cube and puts the cube into a different state of being, and we need to revert that state. We need to recover it back into the normal cube that the unit can use. It basically burns the cube, and then we have to kind of reinvigorate the cube. So we put the cube into the machine, it does the process, which takes 4 seconds. It then takes the cube out, recovers it. That takes a couple of seconds. The cube comes back out and goes back in again. So all in all, this loop takes about 6 or 7 seconds, somewhere in that range. So we've got 6 or 7 seconds to input 6,000 raw rare earth metals, but that's still 1,000 a second, which is at 60 would be about 15, 16 and 2/3, 17 belts, say. I have 8. I can't get 17 belts in and out of this, and that's just the inputs. We have the similar sort of problem with the outputs. 2,000 every 4 seconds. We need 500 output. That's 9 belts. We have 4. I mean, there's a limitation to what this can and can't do. But anyway, that's wasted time. We put the cube in a factory unit. It isn't ready, and we waste time. Now, I have, subsequent to that experiment, been through here and upgraded these 2 particular systems, because most of the wasted time that came about as a result of that experiment were from these 2 rare earth metals. So I've upgraded things. I go through that in the video, and it's now performing a little bit better. I'm getting a little bit less wasted time. But fundamentally, if we go back to this, 77% of the time the cube is spent doing something which I can't influence. This is the ultimate that it can do. So even in an ideal world, and I could get this up to 100%, that's only a 23% increase. I mean, relatively, it's like a third. It's like a third productive. If I could eradicate the entire time where the cube is on the loop and all of the wasted time, then I could get about a third uplift in productivity, which which is I thought that number was going to be a lot bigger. I thought this 77% was going to be lower. I thought it was going to be like 2/3, maybe even half. Like I thought I was going to be losing about half the amount of time, cube productivity time, it doing things, not productivity. But this has actually proved to me that I'm actually using the cube pretty well. That was what I take away from this 77%. There was a second thing, this 5%. This is the time on the loop. I would see this as a negligible, almost completely ignorable number. 5%, we don't even need to worry about 5%. So what that would tell us is that the mechanism by which we use to transport the cube around this factory, how we distribute the cube from process to process, doesn't really matter all that much. I can burn a little bit more time on the loop if I need to. I mean, I feel like, number one, I'm using the cube pretty well, and number two, there isn't really a lot of opportunity for me to use it better. So number three, this is about the speed at which the game wishes us to progress. I might be spending my time a fair amount of time waiting, but it feels like this is the I can get 23% extra. No, it's not actually 23%. What is the actual number? What would it be? 23 divided by 77. 30%. We can get a 30% uplift. That's about the limit, I reckon. I think. Anyway, I've done the whole experiment. What the experiment also told me, there's a whole other issue here that I didn't really go into, which is the 64 cubelet business, because everything other than the 64 cubelets, we only have a single cube, so we only need a single factory unit. We don't have any choice. But when we have 64 of these little cubes, we have choices about how many factory units we allot to each process. And in the video, in that experiment video, I kind of put all of the time spent in the cubelet zone as just a separate issue. You know, we have choices there. That's not really what I was trying to test. I was trying to test, you know, how well the main cube was being used. However, whilst I've been waiting around, I've been looking at the processes in this mini cube, and I just wonder whether I've got things, whether there's some improvements that I can make here. Because, to be honest, what I've got at the moment, I've got 2 processes over here. I've got crystals and spectrolights and the basic matter units. And I've got 3 processes over here. I've got this process which does the n-dimensional widget and this basic contemplation card, which is like the first science pack, more or less. Then we've got ectoplasm. And then we've got this 3rd process. And this process is purely to rid the system of all of the bottled euphoria. This is like a waste product that we need to burn, and we just need to throw it into a void, get rid of it as soon as possible, because it holds up everything otherwise. It hasn't held up anything yet. I am using it quite efficiently, but I think I need more. I mean, this has been running for several hours, a lot of hours, and this hasn't cleared. I mean, there are other issues in that the boxes don't seem to load evenly. Like this conveyor belt here should go 50% to this box and 50% to this box, but it doesn't. And similarly over here and over here, like it doesn't distribute all of the things. And what that means is that there are factory units here which aren't being utilized. Like we've got the whole of these waste products. The more factory units we can distribute this waste product around, the quicker that we can clear these waste products. So how we distribute this waste product around these particular processes needs to be pretty precise. It needs to be a lot more accurate. And because I'm not clearing them very well, I need more. This is of all of these mini little cubelet processes that I've got on this single process. You know, we're splitting the cube. We're taking 32. We're sending them left, and we're taking 32, and then we're sending them right. And we've got these 5 processes linked to those 64 cubes. Of those 5 processes, this one is the one that's holding it up, and we can even see it right now. Like all of the other cubelets have finished in these processes over here, in this one, and in this one, but this one is still going, still round and round and round. I've got 16 factory units in here, and it looks like only 8 of them are working, and that's the distribution problem, that all of the boxes aren't being filled equally. So I've been looking at this particular part of the map, this particular part of the factory, and thinking, well, I think I need to split the cube twice. I need to split it off for these processes, and then I need to join it back together, and then a completely other section which has 64 of these. And then we distribute those cubes a little bit, the waste product a little bit more efficiently. So yeah, I've kind of started building it. This is my waste product zone. We've got an individual conveyor belt for each box, so the inserter has no choice but to pick up 50% of this, which is 50% of this, which is 50% of this, which is 50% of this. You know, one of the great things about the number 64 is that we can distribute these things perfectly around that number. That pleases me greatly. So, I mean, even if this is a little bit over the top, 64 is just so easy. Whoops. And I'm also considering, maybe do I need to split it off several times? There's a whole load of stuff down here that I'm just not sure of. I mean, I suppose the thing about that experiment is that I'm now a little bit more happier about making gaps in here, having a little bit more time on the loop. I don't necessarily mind that so much now. There's not all that much wasted time on the loop, so I can burn it a little bit more. That is a little bit more. I can be a whole lot more relaxed about that particular thing. And to be honest, I'm going to be a whole lot more relaxed about just in general of how I'm utilizing the cube. It's nice to know. I'm really glad I did the experiment. The numbers issue has been vexing me for some time. Okay, so future. What we need to do is we need to just carry on researching all of the things. We've got this thing that's just researched. Let's do the next thing. Because I've researched several processes now at this point where I could start playing around with the recipe, start building some of the blocks. There's some complicated things coming. I could start playing around with that right now, but I absolutely 100% refuse to until I can see it in the science. Like, until I can get the next science pack unlocked and see what's coming, I'm almost refusing to do anything preparatory. You know, I don't want to prepare. I don't want to plan. I just want to unlock all of these things. There's not many left. And then get to the final science pack, because I just think it's going to be horrid. Just horrible. I mean, as I said, I've already got access to some of the things that we're going to be doing. I don't want to predict too much because there's so much that can happen. I don't know. We're going to leave that for the next episode. I was kind of I thought at the start of this episode that this would be done and dusted in 2. I did it done in 2 episodes, bosh. But that's last science pack. It's probably a whole episode, just that line. So I'm just dreading it. I just absolutely dreading it. I don't know what's coming. We will see next time. Okay, that's it. I'll see you later. Farewell. A big thank you to all of my Patreons. You are all lovely people. I love you all so much. In the last video that I made, I did a whole load of upgrades to my PC, and they are working out so good, so damn good. Everything is better. Everything is faster. And all you guys who contributed something have put something towards that. Thank you very much. If you want to join the club, come check me out on Patreon. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Ta-ra.